Hi guys, in this video I want to talk about the OnePlus 2, what is missing and why it doesn't matter, at least not for me. But just so you know, this is the first part. There will be a second video where I will talk about why I cancelled my order after all. But let's get to the first part of this video, what's missing and why I don't care. The first thing that's missing, of course, is NFC. Everyone talks a lot about that, why it's not a big issue for me. First of all, Google Pay. Seems to be a big thing for everyone, but I live in Germany, in Europe, and here it won't be a thing, at least for the next 2 years, if ever. So by the time it will be here, I won't have the OnePlus 2 anyway, so it doesn't matter. The second thing, tap for setup. You know, if you touch two phones and get a setup, it is a nice thing, it's really easy to be done, but it can be also done without, just by logging in with your Gmail account. And I've seen this on LG devices already. You just typed in your Gmail account and it took the last setup you did sync to the system, and it worked as well, no issue. It wasn't any different. Of course it wasn't the same, but it worked as well. And the third thing is pairing Bluetooth devices. Of course it's really nice to be just able to hook them up and they will sync, but in the end, last time I checked, it's still possible with the Bluetooth settings menu and it works as well. So if that's the only thing, I can still live with that. The next thing would be the SD card slot. I know a lot of people like it, and one argument that was really good, SD card slots cannot or I can replace them, but always the storage is there. And if you move them around, but if your internal storage breaks, your data is gone. On the SD card, that's a little bit of a different thing, and I agree about that. But why it doesn't matter for me is, as long as I have at least 32 gigabytes, of course 64 is preferred, which we have on the OnePlus 2, I don't have an issue, because I don't use too much media on my phone. The only thing that I have is my music library. At least on my phone it's like 10-20 gigabytes at best. With a few Android backups and games, 64 is plenty enough for me. Of course, if you shoot thousands of pictures and videos, it could still get tight, but just again, think about how much it costs on some phones to actually get 64. With an SD card, it's way cheaper, but yeah, it is something I can live with. The next thing would be the removable battery, something I don't want for a few years already, because in most cases, no matter how well done, the device just doesn't feel as solid, as sturdy and as tight anymore. I prefer a sealed-in battery. Okay, in terms of the OnePlus 2, for example, it's not a real big issue since you can, or a difference, because you already can take off the removable bags, so it's not really an excuse anymore. They could have maybe done it, but they also say it would have been thicker. Personally, I'm okay, because I never replace batteries, I never switch them, and if the battery life of the OnePlus 2 would be good enough, I wouldn't have an issue with that as well, but this doesn't seem to be the case. But I still don't really care about the removable battery. I know a lot of people of you think different, but that's the case. The next thing would be quick charge. As long as the battery life is good enough, which is pretty much on every device, my daily use isn't that big anymore, and even with a less good battery life, I can get through. And then I pretty much charge my phone at night, always. So if it's charging while I'm sleeping 1 hour longer or shorter, doesn't really matter for me. Of course, quick charge is something nice, but something I never would have benefited in my daily use so far, so I can live without that as well. The next thing would be wireless charging. Okay, so just think about that. Some of you are complaining about quick charge not to be there because you can charge in 1.5 hours, for example. But then again, you are okay charging 3 hours wirelessly. So where's the point? If you aren't okay with 3 hours on a wire, but then again you are on a wireless charger. Of course, it's more convenient to just put it in there instead of hooking up a cable, but if you have a dock, for me that's nothing to really, I never was into wireless charging. Of course, the quick wireless charging from Samsung is really nice, because 2 hours wirelessly is nice. But once again, charging overnight, it's no issue for me. And if it would be the slower wireless charging, I wouldn't be interested in that, because I can only charge while not using my device. If I have it via wire, I can at least use it still while charging. So that's that. The next thing, QHD, I think that's the least problems of all, because it seems to be a very, very good 1080p display. No one seems to have a problem. And I definitely don't have one, since if it would have been QHD, the battery drain would be even higher, and the battery life so far doesn't seem to be that great already. The last thing would be an IR blaster. seems to be big for some. For me, I never used it whenever I had a phone with that, and I personally have a Logitech Harmony which I can completely blindly control. I know all the buttons, they have a different shape and so on, and I definitely prefer still an old school learning remote, because there I can set up things as I want to. I have way more buttons, I can feel them, and I can do everything without looking at it. Having a touchscreen, I have to look at where I'm actually pressing, and that's the case why I never bought one of the newer Logitech Harmonies with a touchscreen, because I don't want to look for buttons on a remote. I just want to feel them and press them and know where they are. That's the main reason. So these are my points. What's missing for me, example, on the OnePlus 2, and why it doesn't matter for me. Once again, I will make a second video, talk about why, still besides all those things that don't matter for me, I canceled my order. But you know it, and please let me know what of these things that are missing matter to you and why they matter to you. And maybe one of these don't matter, why they don't matter for you maybe as well. So check out, please likes, share, comments, and wait for the second video then after that. Okay, bye.